What's the noise it makes? Will I have a story to tell when it's over? Will I have a story to tell when it's over?
Welcome to the Friends of Dan Music Podcast. I'm Dan Miles. We've been listening to the music of Rusty Anderson, who's joining us now on the phone from Los Angeles, California. Hi, Rusty.
Hello there, Dan. How are you?
Well, the song we just heard is called Timed Exposure. It's from Rusty's latest album, Born on Earth. We're going to hear some more tracks from that album and also from his previous album, which is called Undressing Underwater. And I thought we'd start out by having you explain how you came up with those two album titles.
Oh, man. Well, Undressing Underwater was actually from a book, some weird old book, and there was it was like these instructions on things to do underwater, and one was undressing, and I thought, that's kind of weird, you know? So I just, it tickled me, and I liked it for an idea, and so I used it, and there's a little thing that goes along with it inside the record in the artwork. The cartoon of the guy undressing underwater that goes, along with the name.
That's funny.
And I just thought it was something that like dreams and water go together, and and with the sexuality and the Oedipal thing and mother, and it just felt like it had a connection, a psychological connection in there with a lot of the lyrics. And Born on Earth, it sort of turned into a concept record in a way about all the how odd it is that we're here on this planet when everything's going crazy. I mean, the speed of technology and the Industrial Revolution, and the fact that you and I are here as all these things are really at such a logarithmically accelerated point of global warming and all this stuff happening, and communications and cell phones and computers. The way that it's changed the world is so dramatic. It's so odd that we're alive in this time. It's such an intense time to be alive. And I think, the lyrics in the record are a lot of those concepts, like, say, Julia Roberts, about the oddness of having all these stars and people vicariously living their lives through these personalities. And we don't really think about it a whole lot. We just kind of accept it, even though they're on the tabloids and they're on the, the movies and the internet and everything, and how they sort of stalk our lives without us really thinking about it. And so this was, for me, a chance to sort of do a reverse stalking thing.
When I hear the phrase "born on Earth," my first thought is, well, who isn't born on Earth? But then I thought, well, maybe some people out there aren't born on Earth. So.
Yeah, I guess that's the point. That we sort of take for granted. So, like a fish in water, there's that underwater thing again. All we know is this planet and our reality. But I don't know. Sometimes it's good to get a perspective. Take a step back and say a song like "Under a White Star" is exactly about that. About the perspective of seeing the Earth from a bird's eye view.
Well, what impresses me when I listen to your music is how strong you are in so many areas. You're a great singer, a great writer, a great guitar player, a great producer. I particularly like the creative way you use effects on both instruments and vocals. Is that something you plan out in advance, or do you experiment in post-production?
Well, first of all, thank you. That's very sweet of you. But, all of the above. I mean, when I'm working on any song, I think that lots of times that you get an idea and you go, oh, that's cool, and it gives you the original impetus to put the song together or start recording it, and you have an idea in your head, and then as you're working on it, you go, well, that needs something, or that would be cool if it had this effect, or a lot of times I like having things really dry and no effects at all. I used to use a lot more effects. I've always kind of thought effects should be a statement, though. I've never been into just a bunch of washy reverbs and delays.
What I've noticed is that in your songs, they come and then they go. It's not like it's a continuous thing, like a flanger on Eddie Van Halen's guitar for all of Ain't Talking About Love. It's like, you just use it for 12 seconds or something.
Right, yeah. I kind of like the idea of things changing, and just for maybe I'm a little ADD, or maybe I assume the audience is. Like, I think that when you're sequencing a record, for example, even though a lot of people would listen to a song like on a download and it won't be surrounded by sequential order of a normal record, but when you're listening to a record as a record, it's good to have songs that are different tempos and different keys next to each other, just to keep from falling asleep. You know what I mean? To keep awake, and anything to it's just good arrangement, really. I mean, I remember listening to an Otis Redding record a while ago, and they had two songs next to each other. They were exactly the same key and the same tempo, and it's just, it's hard to really absorb the music, I think.
I think there's too many artists like that, where really track 1 through 5 is almost like the same song rewritten again and again.
Right, exactly. That's not my MO.
No. When you demo your songs, do you try to keep them really simple, or do you try and get as close as possible to how you want the finished track to sound?
Well, sometimes I do demo songs, and I mean, all the above. I've done demos that were really just super bare bones, just acoustic guitar and voice. I've done demos that were, trying to be a record master, and sometimes I made it, and sometimes I didn't.
Yeah.
And I've done where maybe I've done 3 different recordings of the same song, or it really is a case by case basis.
Yeah.
Well, let's listen to another song. This is from Undressing Underwater, and it's called Coming Down to Earth.
What have we here? Looks like another change of things. Empty hole that once was certainty. Oh yeah. So it's time to be leaving, 'cause gravity has no feelings. I'm coming down to earth now. I'm coming back down. I'm coming down to earth now. I had to let go. Thousands of years I spent upon some planet drifting low, going nowhere, or maybe just a moment, I don't know. But who cares what emotions say? I'm here tomorrow, yeah, but not today. Hey, I'm coming down to earth now. I'm coming back down. I'm coming down to earth now.
Well, I like the chord progressions you use in that song and the irony of having the melody jump up on the word down.
Yeah.
And I really love that backwards guitar solo. Did you compose that, or was it like a hit and miss process?
Well, that one I think I've done a few demos on, and I think I don't really remember. I mean, I think it originally was I just played notes that I mean, that's the beauty of recording. I'm trying to remember actually, because the first time I recorded that song, it was actually on tape, and you can flip the tape over. You know, and when you flip the tape over, it's a very different experience. The music plays backwards, and you play the solo or whatever thing you're doing against it, and you compose it just as you would normally. Although lots of times it's good to think backwards dynamically, because normally a solo will start low and then high, or start slow and then fast, that kind of thing. So if you do it backwards, it will end up probably sounding a little bit more listenable. And I think that's probably the approach I took on the original when I recorded it and flipped the tape over. I don't really remember how I did this one, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was a little while ago.
Yeah, it was 2 albums ago. It just has a nice melody to it and looseness to it, and it's obviously like a Are You Experienced kind of, clearly a backwards guitar. So.
Yeah.
I know you use a variety of guitars when you play live, but in the studio, do you tend to favor a particular guitar, or do you like to mix it up in there too?
I sort of mix it up. I mean, yeah, live I try to stick to as few guitars as possible, because you get into a groove with the guitar and you get your sound together, and every time you switch a guitar, then the amp setting usually needs to be shifted, and you need to remember where the knobs are, and it's this intuitive thing that goes along with that. When I'm in the studio, it's not as much like that. I mean, you can kind of, I have a bunch of different guitars, and I can kind of play around and get a different sound for different songs. It's kind of fun. I mean, I think there's merit to either way, because if you're always playing the same amp and the same guitar and the same this and that, then it gives you that more of a signature sound in a way. But then sometimes I like diversity, I like colors, I like adventure and journeys and stuff, and that's usually the approach I take, where just something tickles me, and usually it's something new, experimental.
About how many guitars do you own?
Oh, I have no idea. Too many. 20,
Right.
30, 40, something like that.
You've got a surf guitar instrumental called Catbox Beach that's reminiscent of the Ventures and Dick Dale. What inspired you to write that?
Well, actually, that was originally going to be like sort of a classical piece made rock, and then it turned into a surf song, and then Stuart Copeland played drums on it. So I thought, well, obviously it should have a reggae part in it, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool, because I'd never really heard a surfer song and a reggae song sort of mixed into the same piece of music. So, I don't know, it just sort of happened organically, I guess.
Yeah, well, I saw in the liner notes that Stuart Copeland played on that. He's a pretty decent drummer, huh?
Yeah. And he's an amazing person. He's just a colorful person, very smart, very expressive, and everything about him is that way, and it's really inspiring to work with him. He's such a stylist. I mean, to me, there's different drummers that have really, a lot of amazing drummers, but I think probably of the 80s, he was the most influential drummer that there was. Bonham was the biggest one in the 70s, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I know a lot of drummers, and everybody has a lot of praise for him. You've also got a funny song about being disappointed by the quality of a particular birthday cake. Was that based on a real event?
No, that was a friend of mine. We just wrote this song when we were like 13 or 14 or something, and we used to write a bunch of songs and record them, just have fun, just goof off, and that's what that was from. The drummer Peter Smith, who co-produced a lot of the record with me, he liked it, and I thought, okay, well, I played it for him for some reason. He liked it, and he thought we should put it on there. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's got the sax and everything.
Yeah, it was impulsive. Yeah, I had Bunk Gardner, who was a friend of mine, who played sax in the Mothers of Invention. He played on that one, and but mostly this record is not very many musicians. It's myself and Peter playing. I play guitar and a bit of other things like bass and and keyboard things to try to keep it more guitar-based, really. But there's a few keyboards or vibes or that kind of thing, pedal steel. And then the other guys played in a few songs. My band members played, a few tunes. So it's more of like sort of a bandy record. I didn't try to bring in a whole bunch of, people from, a bunch of different players to try to keep I wanted to have more of a band sound.
Okay, well, I'm going to play another song that I think nicely demonstrates the creative use of effects that I mentioned earlier. This is called Electric Trains.
That's ancient history. Way back when life was green, a time for dreaming. And I bet this